Merkel Media.
What is the god, Tony?
Please do not use gendered language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Well, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Day by Day.
Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him.
Pendergast.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site.
Dollars in transactions.
And uncovering the centuries-long plan for world domination.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Swangles in Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Band.video, Odyssey, Rockfin, or now Vigilante.tv, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thanks so much. We appreciate your amazing support. If you want to connect with us, the website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Macroaggression. I like to, I think the theme of this show in general is being prepared for what we're facing. I think this episode in particular is really going to get into it. It's why I think it's probably a good idea to talk to you about our newest sponsor, Solar Power Lifestyle. I'll tell you what, look, it's always good to have a backup source of energy, okay? Just in case, considering we've got supply chain issues, we've got the threats of possible war, we've got food processing facilities blowing up, supply chains breaking left, right, and center. All of this stuff makes me very uncomfortable, makes me very worried when I am dependent on others for things, if I'm dependent on others for my electricity. So I'll tell you what, if you are so inclined, if you are in the market for a solar system, a small one, little one, maybe you're in a van, you have van life, you're doing that, or you've got an RV and you want to have some solar, maybe you need it for your job site, something along those lines, or maybe your house, maybe you've got a cabin somewhere that needs power. I'll tell you what, just start thinking about having a backup source of electricity. The people over at Solar Power Lifestyle are fantastic. It's family-owned business, it's small business, veteran-owned. The guys like our show. They listen to our shows, how they found out about us. You can, they've got all the biggest names over there, EcoFlow, Jackery, whatever. And on top of that, if you buy something from them and then later you find it cheaper elsewhere, they have a 30-day price match guarantee. So they'll make it good for you on that. So I'll tell you what, just do this. Go to solarpowerlifestyle.com and shop around. Just take a look, see what you think. See if there's anything that works for you. If there is, use the promo code MACRO on your way out to save yourself a little bit of money. We certainly do appreciate them for getting involved in helping to sponsor the show. And also, since we're talking about proactivity, then Chemical Free Body does the same thing, except for yourself, for your physical body. Tim James, the owner of the company, has been fantastic. He's texting me right now as we speak to check in and see if everything is going all right. Everything's great. I've been on the products for 2 years, man. I've never felt better. I'm about to turn 50 years old. I feel like I did when I was 25. That is no joke. I shot like a 2-minute video that you can find showing what happened when Tim put me through the 90-day detox in a box program. It was transformative. I lost weight and I don't need to lose weight. It just cleaned me out, made my body more efficient, which I certainly do appreciate. So I'll tell you what, if you're looking for the best vitamins out there. And I know the vitamin industry is super scammy and the products are always sort of suspect. But I'll tell you, we know Tim. He's been on this show plenty of times. He stands behind this product. I think he's got like a double your money back guarantee. I mean, he's not going anywhere. The products are fantastic. I have loaded up on them. I am good all the way through the winter. Do you want to get ready to? I think probably at least take a look. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/macro. You can find everything that you need there. And on your way out, use the promo code macro to save yourself some money. Oh, and by the way, on top of all of that, right now, what he's doing is a 20% first-time customer discount on your order. So if you want to stock up for the winter like a little squirrel and get yourself a bunch of Green 85 like I did, they'll send it to you and you will be ready. So use the promo code macro on your way out to save yourself some cash. And of course, anything that helps to support our sponsor helps to support the show as well. And we certainly do need it. Well, I'll tell you, we're talking about preparedness. There's only a couple guys that I think that we can have on. And so we are lucky to have John Bush. He is the founder of Live Free Academy and also freedomcells.org. He's here to tell us how to get really prepared in advance for, I don't know, what's coming our way. It's coming our way. What's up, John? Good to see you. How are you?
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Charlie. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, your whole theme is being proactive. Right? I mean, this is not a reactive thing. This is you saying we recognize that society is broken in some very obvious ways. We think we can do a better job. We know we can do a better job. We're going to show you how. We're not going to say, oh, let's fix this broken system. We're going to say we can do it better. So we'll go over here to the side. We'll do it better. And then if you want to come join us in our better system, you're welcome to. Is that about right?
Yeah, for sure. It's critically important that each and every one of us that recognizes the problems we're facing in this world, the totalitarianism, this newfounded technocracy, that we take proactive steps to create a life of freedom, that we take responsibility for creating freedom into our own hands, and really that we get our mind prepared more than anything else.
Yeah. Freedom is not given to you. In most cases, you have to take it. You have to want it first, and then you have to go out there and take it. So if we're sitting around waiting for Joe Biden to allow us, to grant us freedoms to do this, that, or the other, I mean, first of all, how insulting. Second of all, we'll be waiting around forever. So I don't like this idea of like, we'll just wait till the powers that be tell us when we can take our masks off or which direction we can go down the grocery store aisle or whatever this insanity is. I appreciate the guys like you. I know that you do some work with Derek Bros, and we just had Derek on. I like the guys that are out there, like just in the mix, fighting against this stuff. You know, not afraid to build back different. Maybe Are we building back different? We're certainly not building the Build Back Better program. We're just building the different stuff that works better. Tell me about Freedom Cells, because this is fascinating to me. What is the Freedom Cell Network?
Well, the Freedom Cell Network is a group of over 33,000 people, going on 34. A lot of people are like, oh, 33.
Let's get to the 34, please, because God knows I'm going to get emails.
But essentially, it's a global, decentralized network of people that care about freedom, people that recognize there is a problem. And in fact, many people recognize there's a conspiracy going on here. And more importantly, we are focused on solutions. So it's a proactive group of people that are working together on common goals, common exit and build goals. This is a strategy Derek and I and many others are employing, where we exit the systems we disagree with and we build the alternatives, or we exit the cities and we build community in the country, build homesteads, exit the government schools, build homeschools, co-ops, support private schools, exit the banks, use crypto or barter or silver currency. And so we're basically working together. And a lot of people felt extremely isolated during all the COVID lockdowns. They felt that they were all alone. And, I've been doing this for 20 years now, and I've seen this movement of free thinking people grow and grow and grow, but it experienced exponential growth after the lockdowns. I think the powers that which they were really overplayed their hands. So we're just hoping to provide some empowerment to people. I think a lot of people get trapped in this victim mindset, whether it's circumstances in their lives with people close to them, or they feel victimized by the state or by this cabal, this New World Order, deep state. We used to call it the shadow government. People call it the deep state.
It still works, you know.
It still works. It still works. But we're trying to empower people. And I find that people are able to overcome their limiting beliefs, overcome this state of victimhood whenever they take action, whether it's growing your own food, linking up with other families, raising the kids together, taking control of your health. People just need to step into that space. And then once you start getting some small victories, it really builds momentum and it can put you on a path, hopefully towards total freedom within the next generation or two.
I saw a stat or saw a meme that had stats on it, so I can't confirm that this is 100% factual, but it was talking about the growth of homeschooling over the years. I think it showed like a stat in like the 70s, it was this, and the 80s it was this. And now it was showing like, it went from like 10,000 people in the 70s to like 5 million now. Does that sound about right?
There's a lot for sure. And it's grown exponentially.
And we've had David Rodriguez on this show before.
Oh yeah, he's the man.
He is the man. And he hates the schools more than I do, which is saying something because I find them to be awful. But let's say you're a parent out there, you've now gone through 2 full school years of COVID and whatever that entails, which is, depending on your geography, it could entail mask wearing. It could be proof of vaccination in some countries or whatever. So you go through all this. The parents are very unsettled. They realize there's a problem with their school. Maybe it's not even the mask. Maybe it's just tranny story time is a bridge too far for everybody. And you go, I gotta get my kids out of this school, man. This is not consistent with my philosophical or ideological beliefs. The things that they're teaching there, the critical race theory or Common Core or whatever, I find that doesn't make sense to me. It seems like I don't want this victimhood mentality taught to my kids. They're going to face it. I want to get out of the school system. How do I do it? What is the first step for these people, these parents that finally have taken, maybe it might be a big step in their minds to finally admit to themselves that there's a real problem with the school system. And then they go, okay, well, we're committed to problem solving for our kids. So I've got to get them into a different system that will teach them the things that I want them to know. Now, I understand that there's little groups, there are people, teachers are quitting. And so family members or family groups are saying, hey, we like that teacher. And all 5 of our families, we don't want to work anymore. Can we maybe hire privately that teacher to homeschool our kids? That's certainly an option. What are some of the other options for parents that are just having this epiphany that they need to do something?
Okay, cool. Well, I'd like to lay out what I call the Live Free Academy Empowerment Framework, because it's a way that I tackle problems. Whenever there's an issue in my life, it's something that I utilize in order to create success. And so in any solutions-oriented, proactive activism, it's a wonderful framework that can increase the chances that people will be successful in their goals. So I'll share it in the context of pulling your kids out of government school. So, and Live Free Academy is the company I started to help people create freedom in their lives. We do workshops, we do trainings, coaching, we have a membership program. So we recently hosted this workshop and we did a free summit ahead of time. But really it starts with the mindset. So it's a 4-part framework. The mindset is first. So in this context of pulling your kid out of government school, you have to first make a decision. You have to make a commitment. You have to recognize that this is not serving your children, that it's not in alignment with your values. And in all honesty, as I'm sure you're aware, it was already quite the scam and indoctrination before all this weird woke stuff and before all the weird COVID stuff. Now it's just in your face, which in some ways is a blessing. Back to the mindset. Are we going to be victims about that? Are we going to whine and complain? Or are we going to say now's the opportunity to help people transition away from these schools? So for the parents, the first thing is to make a decision. And then you got to believe in yourself. One thing that I'm highly conscious of in my work is limiting beliefs, both my own limiting beliefs, but I recognize it and see it in other people as well. And so one of the ones that commonly comes up is I can't possibly homeschool my kids. I've never been trained as a teacher. How could me and my wife possibly homeschool the kids because we both work full time? We can't afford a private school, right? So you have to recognize these limiting beliefs and then you have to smash through them. Because one thing I've learned is that more so than these external obstacles, it's actually these self-imposed obstacles that limit our ability to live a life of greatness. So we got to recognize those. We got to believe in ourselves. We got to just say, you know what? I'm a badass. I believe in myself. I have skills. I can get stuff done. And I believe that this is a better solution for my kids. So even though it's going to be difficult and I don't know exactly what to do, I'm going to figure it out. So you got to first start with that shift in mindset, step out of that victim mentality, step away from the limiting beliefs, believe in yourself. And then it brings us to the second piece. So the first piece is mindset. The second piece is strategy. And when I think about strategy, I think in terms of how do we get from here to there? So how do we go from government school to outside the government school? You got to come up with a plan. You got to set some goals. You got to set some targets. And also, Rome wasn't built in one day. Not a big fan of the Roman Empire. I need to find a different analogy on that one. But the Freedom Cell network wasn't built in one day, right? It took a while to get to 34,000, just under 34,000, we'll say. So you come up with a plan. And it may not be that we're pulling them out immediately. Maybe we're going to do it gracefully. And we're going to say by the time the next semester rolls around, we're going to have the pieces in play to unenroll the kids, move forward with this, that, and the other. So come up with a plan, come up with a strategy. Learn from other people that have come before you. And I'll share the link to this free summit we did. We had Ron Paul speak. He's written books on homeschooling. He's been an advocate for homeschooling. We had Pam Popper, who's done a bunch of great work against the lockdowns. My good friend Richard Grove, who spent a lot of time with John Taylor Gatto. So I'll share that link with you so you can share with your audience. It's a free summit. It's like 7 hours of incredible content. But the next piece after the strategy, so you got your mind right. You believe in yourself. You're committed to making it happen. You may not know exactly what to do, but you know that you're going to figure it out because you believe in your ability to get stuff done for your kids. The second piece is to come up with a strategy, come up with some goals, come up with a timeline. When you start thinking strategically, you kind of can navigate, okay, in order to actually remove them from school, one of us is going to have to shift the way that we work because we're going to homeschool. So what do we need to do to make that happen? Maybe we need to start a side hustle. Maybe we need to cut some of our expenses so one of us can pull back from work. But it doesn't even have to be that you pull back from work because the next piece of the framework is to find other people that are on the same path with similar values and work with other people. This is where the Freedom Cell Network comes into play. There's so many people. In fact, I was up at PorcFest in New Hampshire a few years ago, and we were walking around with my kids, and this guy came and ran and grabbed me. He's like, "Oh my God, you're John Bush. You came up with this Freedom Cell idea. I'd want to introduce you to our Freedom Cell group." We were completely isolated in New York State during the lockdown. We thought we were all alone. We learned about the Freedom Cell Network. We found that there was a bunch of other people in our area. We linked up with these 8 families, and we pulled our kids out of government school, and now we do a homeschool co-op. Nice. So you don't have to do it on your own. You come up with that strategy, and maybe the strategy entails finding other people in your area. Susie and Mike take lead on the kids on Monday and Wednesday. Josie and Ralph take lead on Tuesday and Thursday. On Friday, all the families get together and go to the park, and it's a play day or whatever. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but the point is when you come together with other people that are on the same path, it greatly increases the likelihood that you're going to be able to accomplish your goals. And the fourth and final component of this Live Free Academy empowerment framework is to take massive action. Because I've come to learn, I'm real inspired by this guy, Grant Cardone. He does this whole 10X thing, and one of this whole 10X.
One of my real estate clients just went to go to work for him.
Oh, cool. Oh, down in Miami.
He retired. Yeah, my client, who I've been looking for apartment complexes for a while.
Oh, cool.
Wound up retiring from his job, moving, relocating down to Florida, and taking a job with Grant Cardone. So it's funny.
Yeah, the dude's a beast, and apartment complexes are a great way to protect your wealth and build your wealth. But this guy talks about this 10X rule, and the thing is like 10X your goals, but it's also 10X your expectations as far as how much work it's actually going to take to accomplish your goals, right? So you got to start recognizing that in order to pull your kids out of government school, in order to make the changes necessary, in order to meet the right people, sometimes it's going to take some really, really big commitments and some massive action. And in order to clear the way for the massive action, you have to become conscious of the way that you spend your time in your life. So if you're committed to these goals, if you're going to show up for your kids and give them the life and the education they deserve, then you may need to spend less time watching Netflix. You may need to cut out the trips to the bar. You may need to not think of Saturday and Sunday as a day of leisure, but an opportunity to grow your side hustle so you can make that transition. So that's just a way to think about tackling any problems we find in life, pursuing any goals. It all starts with the mindset. Then you got to come up with a plan and some goals, the strategy, find other people that can help you to accomplish those goals, finally take massive action. And it doesn't have to be homeschooling. There's tons of like-minded private schools out there that buck the mask system. You can start a homeschool co-op. You can homeschool one-on-one. Also, unschooling works for some families. It's more of a life-led learning, but it's all unique for each individual circumstance. But it all starts with believing in yourself and making a decision to execute on these goals.
And that is, for a lot of people, the toughest thing to do. I mean, to make that, it's easier to just stay put. It's easier to continue doing what you're doing. But I think that given what we've gone through over the last couple of years, like you said, we knew that the school system was janky to begin with, but it really got exposed.
Janky, to say the least.
To say the least. I mean, I've listened to those 3-hour John Taylor Gatto speeches myself. I know. I listen to this guy, and I'm writing everything down going, who's this guy? I've never heard of this guy before. This kid's the greatest public speaker ever. And then I find out all about him. And yeah. So look, I think it's easy for us to do nothing. I think it's easy for us to just give in and give into the inertia of it all. But I like the idea of local communities. And it's so funny that, like, what we've been hearing our entire lives is globalization, and all this stuff. Well, the worst people in the world are in charge of globalization. So what about this idea of the opposite of global, this community-specific thing, this focus on local communities that you guys have put forward? And as like a subset of this, I want you to just talk about what you guys describe as parallel institutions, right? So you're not going into the school district and saying, I have some great ideas for how to fix your school system, because that's pointless. Instead, you're then creating a parallel institution that puts pressure on, or at least shows people a different way of doing it, and then siphons off energy or siphons off people to your better built, mousetrap, so to speak. How do you define parallel institutions, I guess?
Sure. Well, when it comes to freedom, and when it comes to, because it's a two-part thing, like, we're resisting this global technocracy, this new world order that wants to literally create a technocratic prison planet. But more importantly, so that's a twofold path. It's like resist, push back, insulate. But there's a lot of energy tied up in that. And what I've found in my life is that which we resist persists. Mm-hmm. So I believe a more effective path, a more spiritual path, really, is to build the world that we want to see, is to create the systems, the infrastructure, the institutions, the relationships needed in order to create lasting freedom for future generations to come. So back to the school analogy. Real quick, I've spent a lot of time doing political activism. So there's two different tracks you can take: political and what I like to call post-political. And in all honesty, government is working exactly as it was intended to operate. There's a lot of patriot types that have this mythology that everyone learned in government school, back to the government school indoctrination, that governments were founded to protect life, liberty, and property, which is it's absurd on its face, because in order for government to exist, they necessarily have to violate those three things through taxation specifically. But I spent a lot of time in the political arena, and what we actually had, what would be seen as victories. We stopped police officers from being trained to do blood withdrawals when they pull you over on the side of the road. We had these privacy policies put in place on the Department of Homeland Security fusion centers, which merge local, state, and federal law enforcement, information gathering, intelligence sharing. And they said, you can't, the privacy policy at the city of Austin level, and it actually passed at the state level, thanks to our work, said you can't collect information or share intelligence based on political, religious, or social views. Fast forward several years, and this anonymous group hacked these fusion centers. And it turns out my name was put in one of these fusion center databases for organizing a meeting with Derek Bros at a bookstore I used to operate about freedom cells. So anyway, I came to realize that what seemed like victories in reality was merely slowing the growth of tyranny. It wasn't creating more freedom for me, my family, my community. And that was not satisfactory. I'm not looking for incremental steps here and there, although it will take slow but sure action to get there. But I want the full enchilada, like the whole enchilada. I want total freedom for myself, my community, total sovereignty, total autonomy, political autonomy, self-determination, self-governance. So in order to get there, I believe it's fundamentally critical that we build these alternative institutions, these parallel systems in the context of government schools. Again, you can go try to reform the school board, put all this energy in action, friction, banging your head against the wall, essentially, or you can create your own school system. And that's a realization I had. I'm always thinking, like, what can we do big picture? What can we do to set the next generation up for success? Not just my kids, but all the free parents, kids, and all the free children of the world that are part of our freedom community. And, I own a 10-acre homestead for the first time. I've always rented my whole life. We got a homestead. We have an intentional community going. We have 2 community members. We got chickens. We got the gardens. And I pay property tax now. And so I'm looking at my property tax, which went up 40% in 1 year, by the way. And I'm like, dang, that backsplash really must have made a difference on our house. But the property tax went up 40%. I'm paying thousands and thousands of dollars to subsidize this school district that my kids don't even go to. They go to this homeschool co-op, and then they work with a tutor a couple days a week. I'd much rather divert that money to this homeschool co-op, which could use more resources. So I start to think, well, they have their school district. That's why this institution is in part so powerful. What if we create our own Freedom Cell school system, and the folks that have money in our network pull their resources together? We fund projects. We build the new schoolhouse. The folks that don't have money can show up to help create the community garden, whatever. The creation of these alternatives is fundamentally critical. We need to stop going to battle, stop banging our head against the wall, putting all our energy in a system, as I said, that's operating exactly as it was intended to operate. We're never going to be able to bring the masses over to our side. In fact, we don't need the masses. The masses never change the course of history. They just go along to get along. But the idea, in order to influence the masses, is what if we could create a sexier vehicle for them to join? What if they see us thriving, healthy, eating well, kids playing together, not wearing masks, smiling at each other. And they're like, what if those guys smoking? I want some of that. And we're like, come on and take a puff of freedom, because it's a really beautiful thing. And so the school thing is just one angle. We've recently started leaning heavily into shoring up the local food supply chain for our community. So we hosted a Freedom Cell meetup. We had like 70, 80 people in attendance. We identified local food producers, local ranchers, local gardens, the farmers markets, community supported agriculture. We put it all on a great big list. And the idea is, let us give as much business as possible to these local food producers, build relationships with them. So when crap really hits the fan, we can maintain a decent quality of life. We don't have to freak out. We don't have to go to the bread line in order to get our vaccine or whatever, because they're going to have all sorts of strings attached with that stuff. So that's the mindset that I really am hoping people will adopt, rather than how can I fight? How can I reform their system? What kind of systems are necessary in order for us to create real freedom in our lives? And more importantly, what type of infrastructure is needed in order to create lasting freedom for generations to come?
It's a big undertaking, but it is well worth it. And I think that what you guys are headed, where you're headed, is the right direction. I think you're going to show people how it's done instead of telling them how you think it should be. It's just it's going to be a reflection of, hey, come take a look. We're doing this here. There's
showing them.
Yeah, show me, homie. Like, instead of telling me what you're going to do, like, show me. Well, 10-acre homestead is a great place to start. Well, let's talk about the financial component of this too. We rightly recognize that there is a monetary system in this world in general, and in America in particular, that is broken, beyond repair, hyperinflated fiat Federal Reserve notes, a looming central bank digital currency on the horizon, which may spell the end of humanity when you have programmable money. But then we've got a general public that isn't quite sure what crypto means. They think it means Bitcoin. We see CBDCs trying to hide under that name of crypto and sort of sneak into this. But let's talk about not all crypto is created equal, right? And we've got some that are better than others. Some do things that others don't do. I wrote a book with Berwick, so obviously I know all about Monero. He's and obviously Bitcoin is popular there. If we're a younger demographic, you don't have to be younger, I guess, but let's say you skew a little bit younger and you're not intimidated by crypto, or maybe you are intimidated by crypto and need to learn a little bit about it. Talk to me about where we're going with this new digital currency and how do we get ourselves into the good ones and stay away from the bad ones?
Great question. I appreciate how you've framed the conversation because it's critically important. And I find it to be highly ironic that there's many people within our community that believe cryptocurrency in general is part of this New World Order global monetary scam, that it's essentially the mark of the beast, that Bitcoin was created by the NSA or some shadowy, sinister forces working against humanity. And the irony falls in that it's decentralized, privacy-based cryptocurrencies like Monero especially that are going to enable the free people of the world to continue to do business with one another online in spite of the central bank digital currency system being built up all around us. So for the folks that are questioning it, I highly encourage them to dive a bit deeper and to think about it critically and not just to believe the article or the YouTube video they saw saying it's all some big giant scam, because it most definitely is not. So I'm really diving deep into the central bank digital currency thing because, like you, I see it as a critical juncture for the future of humanity. And for those not familiar, central bank digital currency is essentially a digital currency. It's not even necessarily blockchain based, although some of them may be. They're aiming to create a digital money that is trackable and traceable. And not only that, but you can control what people spend money on. And it would even enable central banks, like those are the big evil guys. They're going to have so much power. At least there's an intermediary with the current monetary system that is the commercial banks. And at least we still have physical cash, right?
Right.
They want to create an environment where if you show up to the Canadian trucker protest or give money, they can shut your ability to do business down, right? So it's fundamentally important that we see their plans. It's not a hidden conspiracy. It's very much reset, but it has been for quite some time. They're not hiding it because the mass man is too ignorant to even care. But they have their plans laid out. So we got to ask ourselves, okay, we see where things are going. What can we do to navigate around that? How can we position ourselves to continue to be able to do business in the future? And there's multiple different avenues. And one of them is, I think it's critically important that folks consider entrepreneurship, or at least setting up a side hustle. So they revealed their hand with the COVID stuff. That the utilize is making life uncomfortable for people in order to get them to do something they wouldn't normally have done, taking away what they see as privileges. And of course, this comes in the form of limiting travel, limiting someone's ability to earn a living by pressuring large corporations to mandate vaccines for their employees. Such treachery to force somebody to do a medical procedure that they don't want to do and threaten their livelihood. So another good tip is to identify areas where you're vulnerable to these types of control mechanisms and to try to become as independent as possible in every aspect of your life. Because when you're dependent on these external centralized institutions, you are more easily manipulated. And so one of these institutions, of course, is a corporate job, you're a corporate employee. It could be that your pay starts getting issued in central bank digital currencies, and the big mega corporations are the first to go along. So I think it's critical that at least we have a side hustle. And I'm always conscious of the audience I'm speaking with. So younger folks like my age, you could start a business. You could build a business. You could build real wealth for yourself, and you won't have a cap of how many hours you work is only how much money you'll ever make. You can grow your business exponentially. But for older folks, whatever, at least maybe start a side hustle, because your Social Security, your retirement account could be under threat as well. So at least have something going where you can bring money in on the outside of the legacy, centralized, trackable, traceable system. On top of that, it's critically important that we set up local trade networks, back to the parallel systems, the parallel economies. Samuel Edward Konkin, who created this philosophy, which is really a strategy of agorism, revolutionary market anarchism. Let us not compete within the system. We should compete with the system by creating alternative systems. It's really important now, while we still can, for us to identify the producers within our community. That means whenever you have a plumbing issue, rather than going to the yellow pages, we go to the black and yellow pages. Those are anarcho-capitalist things. I'm just a voluntarist guy. So if it's anarcho-capitalism, anarchism, voluntarism, whatever, as long as people aren't forced to do things, which is cool. So the thing is, start to identify those producers, identify the folks with the goods and services, and let's start doing business with one another. Let's hire one another. Let's work for one another. Let's keep it in the family, so to speak. So when they start requiring the CBDC or the thumbprint scan at the grocery store, we have our own local food producer network. We have our own goods and services network. We barter with one another. We use alternative currencies. Maybe it's a time currency, maybe it's silver, or maybe it's cryptocurrency. Good old fashioned bartering trade is pretty simple and hard to track and trace as well. But let us all learn to use cryptocurrency in the least bit. I used to tell folks, cryptocurrency is a great way to build wealth and protect wealth. But now it's very clear after being in the space since 2012 or so that it's a very volatile ride. So my advice has changed. If someone's well established, if they ask themselves questions like, what do I do with my money? Which is a great question to ask yourself, of course. You're in a good place. You've worked your whole life. You're established. You just sold a home or whatever. Then yeah, put some money into Bitcoin. I believe ultimately the price is going to go up in the long run. But if you're on the come up, I would encourage people to invest all of their extra money that exceeds their expenses back into themselves, learning new skills, becoming more valuable in the marketplace by helping other people to solve more problems. But it's not a bad idea to maybe do some dollar cost averaging, $50 a month or whatever you can afford. But more importantly, get your hands on some cryptocurrency and learn to use it in commerce. Because a lot of people just buy it on Coinbase and hold it there. First of all, if you buy crypto in an exchange like Coinbase and you don't transfer it out of that into a non-custodial wallet where no one has access to your private keys. So every crypto account has a public address and a private key. Public address like your account number, although you can create an infinite number of them. Private key is what unlocks access to send crypto out of the public address. You need to have a non-custodial wallet because only you have that private key. And some of these other exchanges like Coinbase, they have the private key and you do not. So you don't really control your money. And in fact, with Russia, with these sanctions, Coinbase was pressured to shut down like 25,000 different accounts and addresses and stuff like that. So it's critically important to get your hands on 50, 100, $500 worth of crypto and start using it, experimenting, practicing, especially Monero. Let it be known that Bitcoin has a transparent blockchain. A blockchain is essentially a decentralized, distributed public ledger. And that's the great innovation of Bitcoin. For all of time, we had to trust a third party in order to maintain the legitimacy of one of these ledgers. Banks, corporations, Visa, the Federal Reserve Bank. Now we can have a ledger that's updated in real time. Well, it's updated every 10 minutes or so, and it's updated across over 15,000 different computer servers that are hosting this blockchain. It's a chain of blocks. Each block contains the financial transactions, the transactions that took place. Those are great, unique innovation, but the Bitcoin blockchain, all those transactions are completely transparent, which has benefits, but not for privacy, of course. So if you purchase your crypto on Coinbase and you scan your driver's license or passport, now that crypto address is tied to your identity. And even if you send it to the next wallet that's private, there's still a trackable transaction that takes place, which is why it's important to purchase crypto privately. Local Monero.co is a way to do that. Localbitcoins.com is a way to do that. But get your hands on some Monero because this is a cryptocurrency where every single transaction, every transaction history, how much crypto you sent, how much crypto you have, how much the person you sent has, it's all obscured. It's completely private. So this is going to be one of our most valuable tools that will enable us to continue to do business with one another online. And you don't want to wait until this central bank digital currency system is fully implemented to learn how to use it. You should learn how to use it now. And I can share a link with you again. I did a
You do work.
Yeah, I did a free webinar where I break all this down. I talk about the objections. What happens if the internet gets shut down? What happens if government tries to ban it? Isn't it hackable? Wasn't it created by the New World Order? But I also talk about setting up a non-custodial wallet, how to get crypto privately. It's a free webinar. In fact, I went for 4 hours. So if you're the type of person that could dive deep, it's 4 hours of free content, all about cryptocurrency. And then, yes, I do have full-on 2-day workshops. One's oriented towards beginners, even for older folks. I became really conscious, people in my audience, there's a lot of older retired folks. So I broke it down real simple, real basic. And then there's a more comprehensive course for folks that want to dive deeper. But I'll be sure to share that link for the free webinar because it's totally free of charge and people can get a lot of insight and information about it. This is super important, and I highly encourage people if they've been on the fence. You don't have to fully trust it. I'm not saying drop 10K or sell your house or use your kid's college fund, but in the very least, we need to learn how to use it because, like I said, it's going to be the only way we can do business online, even when they set up the CBDC system.
Yeah, and I, and Berwick's was screaming at me for years to get on it, and I did. I mean, I listened to him and everything, and I think there's a good case to be made for having some Bitcoin and having some Monero. Nobody says you have to pick one. You can be. You don't have to play on just one team. You can have multiples, and I would also say gold and silver too. I like those. I mean, if if things go bad, and I've got a gold and silver sponsor for this show that we named Tony Arterburn over at Wise Wolf, and we love him for that because he's it's just an option, and we're talking about maybe diversifying, people diversifying out of Federal Reserve notes that are soon to be worthless at the rate they're going, maybe even illegal at some point. And just transferring to say, well, I choose to hold my wealth, whether it's an immense wealth or very small amount. I choose to hold it in something other than Federal Reserve notes. It's not to say I'm not spending it necessarily. I'm just changing it. I'm just exchanging it. And so for people that want to get involved and get gold and silver, I think that's a great idea. You guys you're one of the speakers at the Greater Reset, yeah? In January, mid-January this year. What's going on over there?
Oh, yeah. It's actually a project that Derek and I started back in 2020. And
I didn't realize you started it with him. Oh, great. Cool. Well, now we're going right.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we're co-founders on all sorts of stuff. So, I actually came up with we share the co-founder title with the Freedom Cell Network as well. I came up with the idea and the framework, and we started one cell, right? So we had one group. It kind of fell apart due to some personality differences. And then I realized, like, man, I'm a dad. My kids, I'm struggling financially. We're broke. We're getting the electricity turned off. So I pulled back from activism. This was like in 2015, 2016. And thankfully, Derek really resonated with the idea of Freedom Cells. And so he's responsible for helping to spread it into a network. I came back on board, seeing all this stuff I've been talking about for 20 years is right here in front of our faces. So I leaned back into the Freedom Cell Network. But we're also co-founded the Greater Reset. I love that guy. We really...
he's a good
help
dude.
to like pump each other up, and we play off of each other's activism. But it's actually the Freedom Cell Network that's hosting the Greater Reset. So we're seeing all this stuff, this Klaus Schwab, like super villain. We're aware of Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg, Trilaterals, all these old school guys. But the World Economic Forum really is positioning itself as the leader of this New World Order. And I've been talking about New World Order ever since I caught 9/11 Road to Tyranny by Alex Jones. I've always had a love-hate thing with Alex, but I really appreciate
everyone does.
Yeah, he's quite the dynamic guy.
He brings you into the insanity a little bit, and then you get into it, and then you go, he's not going far enough on this thing. You
kind of evolve and stuff. But I appreciate the guy, and I appreciate the work that he's done as far as spreading the word. But it was just so crazy to be talking about the New World Order. So back in the day, I'm banging on my parents, my college classes. I'm like, this New World Order's coming. We got to tell everybody. We got to stop it. But it was always like some far off, distant thing. Like, if we don't do what we need to do now, the New World Order is going to take over the world. And then COVID happens, and it's like, wow, this is right here in our face. And then the Greater Reset gets unleashed. And I had the realization, like, wow, they've been wanting to do a panopticon society, a track and control your movements, one world currency, mark of the beast, turn off your ability to do commerce, just as was written in the book of Revelations. But they never had the technology to pull it off.
Right.
And with the exponential growth curve in technology and computing power, now 5G, interconnectivity, Internet of Things, they really have the foundation laid to institute a global technocracy. And for those not familiar, technocracy is rule by scientific elite, essentially, instead of rule by politicians, which is not optimal either. Self-governance is ultimately the optimal path. So me and Derek are talking about the Great Reset. What are we going to do? It's Klaus Schwab. The Great Reset's this project by the World Economic Forum. I'm sure your audience is well aware of it. And so we're like, we just see all these people doing articles and little documentaries and videos about it. And we're like, why don't we provide a solution to this, a alternative? So they want centralization. We want decentralization. They want coercion. We want voluntarism. They want surveillance. We want privacy, right? So we started doing the Greater Reset. We're about to host the 4th iteration. It's more than a conference. We call it an activation because it's all about getting people pumped up, inspired, empowered to take proactive steps in their life to create real freedom so we can insulate ourselves and create an alternative to this new world order that's being created around us. So we're having the 4th iteration. It's called the Greater Reset 4 Co-Creation. It's really cool what we're doing because the event is simulcast from Texas. I'll be hosting the Texas event, and Mexico. Derek will be hosting the Mexico event at the same time. And it's also free for everyone to watch online. Really excited about the presenters that we have. People can go to thegreaterreset.org, thegreaterreset.org. I highly encourage folks to sign up for our email newsletter to stay on top of all the news. We're announcing our booked speakers every week, but just to share a few right now, we got Jack Spirko coming in, good friend of mine. He's here in Texas, total awesome dude, all about preparedness, food production, aquaponics. Tom Woods, who's a libertarian, has also been focusing heavily on what can we do in our life, solutions oriented around business and homeschooling. He's got this School of Life. Christian Westbrook will be joining us online. Ice Age Farmer. Yeah. Alex Zeck. Of course, me, Derek, and Ramiro. Ramiro hosts it along with us. He does a lot of the tech stuff and super excited to have him. But it's going to be an incredible event. And a lot of people have told us that they felt lost, that they felt isolated, they had no hope because, we've been doing this a long time, but people that just start waking up, it's very overwhelming. And you dive deep and you're just there in the dark with the blue light in your face, researching, watching these scary documentaries. But what we want to do is hopefully be a beacon of light and show people there's another way to live. There's another way to organize society. There's incredible human beings that are making real changes in their life, and those changes are rippling to the outside world. So we want to invite people on that journey with us. It's a journey of empowerment, and we're going to be doing it again January 18th through the 22nd. It's completely free to watch online, or you can join us with a ticket in person, which is really where the magic's at, in Bastrop, Texas, just east of Austin, or down in Morelia, Mexico, where Derek will be hosting.
Yeah, I think it's great, man. I tell you, I always come back from these things with two feelings. I'm a little bit let down because I'm leaving it. It's over, and I feel like, all right, well, this vibe is not easy to replicate. But then I also feel like really inspired. Mm-hmm. I feel like, okay, this is doable. It seems impossible when you're looking at the state or the current system, and it's so well built and it's propped up by all this money and media and people in suits, and it all seems so real, and then you go, well, how would I ever go up against that? And then you go and you find a group of like-minded people that are not just twirling in the parking lot of a Grateful Dead concert, but they're actually like, we've got plans, we've got skills, we've got ideas, we're building up our own little structure there. And I leave going, this is not only doable, this has to be done. Like, it has to be done. Now, and I don't know, and like you mentioned earlier in one of this is, when you're talking about homeschooling, you don't necessarily have to know exactly how you're going to get from A to Z. You just need to start down that path and go from A to B. As in our world, David Icke calls that the totalitarian tiptoe. We could talk about it as the freedom tiptoe. You know, in this case, it's small incremental moves. Maybe homeschooling is the last thing you do because it is such a big deal. But maybe you get a little bit more honest about where you get your food. Maybe you start to make these connections with people. I noticed that on your podcast, you had Marjorie Wildcraft on recently.
Yeah, she's the best.
One of my favorites. She's from the Grow Network. And I was on this weekly call with her, I think it was summer 2021, I think. Every Thursday afternoon for like 2 months, I was on this call with her and a bunch of people. And I really liked her and what she was doing. Can we talk about food for a little bit? That seems like some low-hanging fruit we can start with. How are people, what's a good way for people to start kind of taking control of their own, I don't know, whether it's necessary, whether it's growing food or acquiring food or setting up a network of people. You mentioned having like relationships with local butchers or local food sources or places where food is sold locally, maybe or hopefully organically. What's a good place to get started with regard to food?
Sure. I'm reminded, though, of something you said about just getting started, even if you don't know. There's this awesome quote by Zig Ziglar. I'm going to do my Zig. He's like an old sales success guy, classic guy. And I'm obsessed with this self-development philosophy. But he said, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great, right? So you don't have to have it all figured out to start on the road. But once you start, you get it all figured out and you actually turn out to be great at it if you're committed. Food's critically important. And I know I'm sharing all sorts of links and workshops. So we just did this homesteading on a budget workshop, and it was oriented towards, again, I'm conscious of the limiting beliefs. We hosted this Exit and Build Land Summit, 450 people in person, thousands watching online. And we were like, you should move out of the city, buy land, build community, grow your own food in the country. And the biggest limiting belief, of course, is I don't have money to buy land. I can barely pay rent. I have no idea how to grow food. I tried to grow tomatoes and ruined it. I don't have the knowledge. So we're like, okay, people are struggling financially and they don't have the knowledge they need in order to get it done. So we hosted a whole workshop. Marjorie actually was one of the presenters.
Great.
But I'll share that link with you as well. But just some places to start. So it's really important that we're at least growing some of our own food. To think that you can grow all your own food on your own is really a challenge unless you do it full time and you actually turn it into a business and you have multiple people helping you. It's really difficult, but it is important to at least get some of your own food from your own place. And if you have a property, if you have a backyard, that's a great place to start. If you have an apartment, you can set up some container gardens on the back porch. You can do hydroponics on the wire shelf in the kitchen. Actually make a nice little effect to have the cool neon lights or grow lights there and the water running through the pump and stuff. But try to at least teach yourself to grow food. There's a lot of people in our community that are like, I got the survival seed bank in the closet. And if crap hits the fan, I'll know I'll be okay because I bought the survival seed bank 12 years ago from a InfoWars commercial or something, right? Patriot Food Supply and stuff like that. But a lot of people, they don't know how to grow food. And I wish I could say it was easy, but it's actually quite a pain in the butt. And we just planted some more food in our property, and it got all dug up by some little critter. So now we got to build a fence, and it's a big pain in the butt. There's a big learning curve. So I would encourage people to start with what's easy. Start with some basil, start with some mint, start with some okra. If you're in Texas, squash is always easy to grow. Tomatoes are pretty easy to grow. I know someone screwed it up earlier, but go back to this whole framework I created, right? Mindset, strategy, work with others, take massive action, especially when it comes to working with others. If you know somebody that can garden, they will talk your head off about all their tips and secrets till they're blue in the face. They absolutely love it. Just like parents will talk their head off about their kids. So find other people, work with other people, at least get some stuff going on your own. I'm a big fan of chickens. As far as food production goes, those eggs are just so good for you and they fill you up, and you can slaughter the chicken. Although I would go slow on the slaughtering, but you slaughter a chicken, you eat the meat, then you take the bones and you create bone broth with it. And you're really getting a lot of mileage out of these chickens. They reproduce on their own. And in fact, I would say that it's easier to get food from chickens. It's easier to raise chickens than it is to take something from seed to fruit. It's challenging, but you can learn to do it. You learn the seasons. You learn how to fight off the little critters with some diatomaceous earth and really pay attention to it. You can You can make it happen, but you don't have to do it all on your own. So I encourage people to go to farmers markets, build relationships with local farmers, find some freedom-minded people. They're out there. Give them your business. Get involved with the Community Supported Agriculture Program, CSA, Community Supported Agriculture Programs, where you pay a monthly membership. Maybe it's even bi-monthly, and they deliver some food and a box of all sorts of really great fresh veggies and fruits. You go pick it up at the local pickup location. Identify local farmers. One thing that we do with the Freedom Cell Network, we recently hosted a meat share. We actually created a report on how to do this. So you can link up with your local crew. You can find a cattle rancher. You talk to the cattle rancher. You say, we got 16 people, 5 people, 8 people, whatever. We want to buy a whole cow and pay to have it butchered. So we got 16 people together. We thought we were going to do a quarter cow. We ended up putting enough money together to buy a whole cow, have it butchered. And so at the same time, all these people are freaking out about food scarcity and worried about the supply chain collapsing. And me and my crew, we stored it when we first got it delivered. The farmer came, the rancher came to my property. We shook hands and everything. We got some FaceTime with the guy. And so everyone's freaking out with the headlines. And meanwhile, we got this chest freezer. We open it up and it's like, it's totally full of beef. And we have more beef than we know what to do with, right? So it's all about the mindset. Just step away from the scarcity and the fear. Don't spend so much time behind the computer. Instead, go out, meet people, come up with a plan, work with the other people in order to execute on this plan. Find some master gardeners, find people that have been doing it in your area. They'll teach you all the tricks about the summer and what to do for the winter and these critters and those critters. And then take massive action, because nothing is more important than food. And we very well know that these elite are willing to use food as a weapon. In fact, Henry Kissinger wrote about that back in the day, use food as a weapon to control poor nations. And Henry Kissinger actually was Klaus Schwab's mentor for quite some time. So let's not let us put it past them that they are capable of leveraging food or lack thereof to force people to do things that they don't want to do. Once again, it comes back to the whole dichotomy between dependency and independency. And I have a feeling the people listening to this podcast would much prefer to be independent, but it takes a lot of work. But like I said before, first it takes making a decision and believing in your ability to get it done.
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned a couple times in this, and we'll wrap up with this mindset. Let's wrap with talking about Live Free Academy, because this is a place where you can get your mind right. This is a place where people can come in. They can participate in your classes. They can get the academy that you want to talk about getting schooled. Is you can sit in a classroom and learn about 17th century women's lit if you'd like to, which isn't going to help you. Or like you said, you can take excess money that you have from your job, even if it's a little bit, and reinvest it in yourself. And then that, of course, is very difficult to quantify and measure when you do something like that. So what is Live Free Academy, and why is this a possibility for people should at least come over and take a look and see what you got cooking over there?
Yeah, so Live Free Academy is a business that I started last April when I recognized there's a lot of people that value freedom, but they just don't know how to live a more free life. And I'm talking about political freedom. I'm talking about food freedom. I'm talking about health freedom, financial freedom. And so like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've been self-employed for 13 years. Most of that time was an absolute struggle, completely broke, but things really started clicking for me more recently. And they started to click in large part because I shifted my mindset. So I feel like I have a lot of tactics and strategies to share with folks. And I feel like I'm a pretty good teacher that can really break things down into simple, condensable format, consumable format. So I put this business together. We did cryptocurrency trainings. We've taught people how to grow their own food. We've taught people how to build community. We did this Exit and Build Land Summit I shared about earlier. And that's all about how to exit the city, buy land, and build community in the country. I'm very conscious in all the work that we do. And I'm not the only teacher. There's all sorts of other teachers that we feature regularly. I'm very conscious about the best way to deliver the information so as to create action. It's not like a hoorah cheerleader kind of thing. It's very methodically why are people not successful with their goals? Because everyone in our community knows they want to grow food. A lot of people want to learn to do crypto. They want to move out of the city. They want to homeschool their kids. For some reason, they can't get it done. So what we try to do is not only provide the tactics and strategies to execute, but more importantly, we help people to identify those limiting beliefs that are holding them back, to recognize them and to overcome them. Because once we can clear those limiting beliefs, it's much easier to smash those external obstacles and the challenges that we may find. But it all starts with believing in ourselves, believing in our ability to get things done, recognizing the greatness that lies inside of us, and understanding that none of us are living up to our full potential. But if we do that inner work, if we face the inner tyrant, if we deal with problems we had in our childhood, if we learn to take pain and not allow it to lead to suffering, but rather recognize that it's the pain that is our greatest teacher. We learn these lessons, we implement these lessons, and it's only a matter of time before we're experiencing a much greater quality of life. And it doesn't stop there. It's not just about ourselves, not just about our family. It's about identifying people that are on the same path, on the same page, and working together with those people to create real freedom for our communities. And one thing I learned from Derek Broze is, and this is like an indigenous thing as well, to focus what are my actions today? How are they affecting the future 7 generations to come? And that's just this mind-blowing thing. Like, wow, you got to think really big, think way ahead of the curve. So we know that the enemies of freedom are on a intergenerational path. They have been at it with their secret societies. I guess you could trace it back to like the Milner Group and the Rhodes Scholarship, this current tyranny, but it goes even further than that. They have a big picture plan and a big picture vision. And I think we ought to think the same way, not just about the election of the day or how am I going to pay the bills this month, but what can I do in my life in order to affect the future, in order to give our children, our children's children, and the future 7 generations a fighting chance. What can we do? How can we change? And really, that's what Live Free Academy is all about. We identified a few areas: cryptocurrency and decentralized technology, entrepreneurship and financial independence, and exit and build strategy. How can we exit these systems and build better systems to create real freedom? And we've created an incredible community. We do a lot of stuff in conjunction with the Freedom Cell Network. So I hope people will definitely check it out and sign up for our daily email newsletter, where we share all sorts of nuggets of wisdom and keep people up to date with all the events and workshops that we're doing.
John Bush has a plan. As Terrence McKenna says, if you don't have a plan, you become part of somebody else's plan.
Yeah.
So I think it is wise for us to dig in, get ourselves a plan. All of the links are going to be in the show notes for this. If you're listening and you think that you like what John is talking about, don't worry about having to write it down. I'm going to put all the links in the description. Where's the best place for people to find you if they're just curious to check out some of your work?
Yeah, I'd check out livefree.academy. That's the website. That's all the workshops and webinars and stuff I hosted is put on by Live Free Academy. I link to my podcast there as well. And that's where folks can stay in touch and contact me via the website as well.
That's John Bush, everybody. If you liked his stuff, check out his links in the show notes. Follow him, support his work, start thinking proactively. We appreciate everything that you've done for us and continue to do. You're going to be one of the first generations in this multi-generational approach to breaking away from the system. That's a pretty cool thing. We certainly do appreciate it. And if you like this episode, you can take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family. If you want to connect with me, the website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. We will talk to you all soon.